Hello, everyone. This is Tommy at World of War Comics. Before we get into this video, please give us a like, give us a subscribe. That really helps out the channel and allows me to do more of these type of videos if you're enjoying them. All right, without further ado, Batman One Bad Day. Here we go. Hello, everyone. This is Tommy at World at War Comics. Thanks for joining us today. Today, we're going to talk about Batman One Bad Day. If you're not aware, the last issue within that series just dropped this last week. And so I thought we'd go through it. I'm going to rank them how I like them. But first, I want to introduce you, in case you haven't been reading them, to each of the comics. I'll start with the first one and with the last one that just dropped, and then I'll rank them after that. So let's go ahead and get started. So the first one was The Riddler. It was written by Tom King, and Mitch Gerads was the artist. So this was the first one. So this is the first one that dropped. The second one was Two-Face. And this one was written by Mariko Tamaki, who I've liked a lot of the stuff that he's done before. And then Javier Fernandez was the artist on that. But yeah, Two-Face, which was also pretty good. Then we come into the Penguin. That was written by John Ridley. And the art was done by Giuseppe Camuncoli. So you could see this is the Jim Lee cover. Man, his covers are so amazing. But Penguin was the third one within the series. The fourth one was Mr. Freeze, and it was done by or written by Jerry Duggan. And then the art was Matteo Scalera. So here is another awesome cover. This one is another Jim Lee, which explains why it's so awesome. Love Jim Lee's artwork. Then came up Bane, and Bane was written by Joshua Williamson, and Howard Porter was the artist on it. And that cover is pretty amazing. I'm not sure if that one is, I don't think that is Jim Lee, but that cover is incredible. Then we get into Catwoman. Catwoman was written by Willow Wilson, and Jaime McKelvey was the artist. And then we get into Clayface, which is also another good one. The art on this is a Jim Lee cover. It was written by Colin Kelly and Jackson Lansing. And then the artwork was done by Romulo Fajardo Jr. And this is another Jim Lee cover. Incredible. And if you haven't heard, Clayface is going to be one of the villains in the new Batman 2. And then we get Ra's al Ghul, which another Jim Lee cover, which is pretty amazing. This one was written by Tom Taylor, and the art was done by Ivan Reis. So these are the 8. If you haven't seen, obviously Ra's al Ghul was the last one of the 8, which dropped last week. And so I really enjoyed it. Like I said, in general, I guess to give different writers and artists the free will to kind of give their side of what that villain would have been like was kind of cool to see. Again, I didn't think all of them were according to canon and according to how those villains have been portrayed in some of the more up-to-date Batman issues, but it was still a lot of fun. Again, some were better than others in my book, but altogether, I really enjoyed it. In fact, I would be up for more. There's still a lot of villains that didn't get their One Bad Day issue. I mean, you got Punchline, you got Harley Quinn, you got Poison Ivy. There's quite a few out there that haven't had their One Bad Day, so I'm hoping they continue it. And then, of course, the Joker was not part of this. Now, the reason for that was they came out with the Killing Joke, a while ago, and that is considered the One Bad Day because that is the story of the Joker. But yeah, it was a lot of fun. So let's kind of go through it one by one, and let's go from there. So then we get into real quick. Let's get into Bane. So Bane, right? It follows Bane. He's a wrestler, and at this point, he has been able to rid the world of Venom. And that's really his goal in life throughout this comic book, is really to get rid of it because he knows the side effects of Venom, and he knows what someone who takes in Venom, the kind of person they could be and the amount of damage they could do. And he finds out that there is someone still producing. In fact, it's the same scientist that created the Venom in the first place. Well, he's up to it again, and he's starting to produce more, and it's starting to hit the streets. And because of that, Bane connects with Batman, and they both go after that scientist. So I'll stop there. You should really read it, but it was a pretty good book. Again, not really according to canon, but I really enjoyed it. The artwork is sick on this. I really enjoyed it. Man, Howard Porter just did an amazing job. Look at the cover. You could see in his head Batman in the background. I really enjoyed this one, so it's definitely at the top of my list, but I'll give you my ranking at the end. So then we get into Basil Carlo, who is Clayface, and you know what? He's walking around. He wants to be in the movies, and he is really trying out for a lot of different films. He goes by the name of Clay during the day as he's trying to do this, but unfortunately, his skill sets don't match what a lot of directors are looking for, and that creates a lot of issues with Clayface, and it really causes him to strike. And he ends up starting to kill anybody that gets in his way from being able to fulfill his dream. So that's kind of Clayface in a nutshell. You should really pick it up. Again, the art is amazing. This cover is sick, though, from Jim Lee. Really enjoyed it. But Clayface was the second one that I wanted to kind of share with you what was going on. Next, we get into Penguin. So really false Penguin. He's built this entire empire and then he loses it. And really, this particular comic is really looking at how he comes back. So there's a lot that he has to go through. He really hits rock bottom, and then he finds a way to make his way all the way back to the top again. So this one is really about Penguin restoring that kingdom that he's been able to create. All right, now we get into Catwoman. So Catwoman, it starts off, right? She's a young girl. Her mom is a single mother with her and her sister, Maggie. There's an heirloom that supposedly has been passed on from her grandma to her mother. Her mother is late on rent and needs extra money. So she goes to a pawn shop to try and pawn off this heirloom. And the pawn shop mentions that, you know what? This isn't the actual heirloom that's real. This is a fake and a replica of what that heirloom would have been. And so obviously there's a lot of disappointment in Selina's mom. She ends up selling it really cheap. And then we go ahead, many years later when Selina is actually Catwoman and she wants to retrieve this heirloom because it means a lot to her. Well, there's a lot of twists and turns. She finds out another woman who is actually even more vindictive than Selina and is amazing at thievery. And so I'll leave it there. You should really check it out. It was a pretty good comic book. This is definitely toward the top. I really enjoyed it. All right, now we get into Ra's al Ghul. And this really follows him really trying to change society. And the way that he does it is he's looking at all these top CEOs that are running companies that hurt the earth, right? So he is definitely wanting to stop climate change, and he begins to really knock off these CEOs, and he knocks them off knowing that there's a replacement that's going to be more aligned to his desire to save the earth from being destroyed from fossil fuels and all these other things. So the artwork, this again is an amazing cover by Jim Lee. The artwork throughout this comic is amazing. I felt that it got a little preachy through it. I enjoyed the story, but then it was a little too much for me. It got really preachy, but the comic itself with the artwork was amazing. So that is Ra's al Ghul. All right, now we get into the very first issue of Batman One Bad Day, and that's the Riddler. And this story follows Edward. It starts off as a child. He's in school. He's extremely intelligent, wants to be the very best student, but he is given a riddle from his teacher that he just can't figure out. In fact, on a test, more riddles are being given to all the students, and Edward just cannot figure out these riddles. He becomes extremely frustrated, feels like it's unfair because these riddles really aren't part of the topic that the teacher was teaching on, yet the teacher really wanted him to kind of think outside of the box, and Edward was not going for that. So we move forward much later, and Batman is coming for the Riddler, and every time the Batman gets close to the Riddler, someone dies. And in fact, it happens so often that Batman starts to back off a little bit. So I'll leave it there. You got to check it out. The Riddler was definitely toward the top. I really enjoyed that one. All right, next, and this is actually number two. This is Two-Face, and so this story really follows Harvey Dent. He has been put in prison. He spent time there, and it seems like he's recovered from his dual personality. So they end up releasing him, and it seems like he's really trying to do good. In fact, he even goes to Batman for support because it's his father's 88th birthday, and his father received death threats. So he asks Batman for his support to help protect his father. Well, a lot of things go wrong, as you could imagine. I'll leave it at that. But, Harvey Dent, you can't go wrong. I love Two-Face, and this was a great comic. All right, then we get into the last of the 8. This is not the last one in the series, but the last in the 8, and that's Mr. Freeze. So this follows Mr. Freeze. His wife is terminally ill. He has her in cybergenics. Well, he wants to get her out. And so he does. He goes to try and break her out of that. But as he's trying to do that and trying to remove her, Batman and Robin, Dick Grayson, so this is going back a little bit, they start to have an argument about Mr. Freeze as to whether he could be saved. Can he be rehabilitated? And can he be brought back to a normal person? Dick Grayson feels that criminals can, and Batman feels specifically with Mr. Freeze that he's a lost cause and he cannot be returned to society and live a normal life. And so they have this little battle going on, and Dick Grayson wants to prove him wrong. So I'll leave it at that too. You got to check this one out. It was pretty good as well, especially when you have Batman and Dick Grayson, Robin, as part of the story. So that's really the 8 in a nutshell. So let's rank them, at least how I saw it. All right, so here we go. My number 1 was actually Two-Face. Really enjoyed this book. Really enjoyed to see Harvey Dent returning back to what he was before he was in the accident. And I thought it was a great story. Love to see Batman and him connect. So that was my number 1. My number 2 was actually the Riddler. I just really love the story. It gets pretty gory as he's starting to kill others to really get back at Batman for coming after him, which I really enjoyed. The artwork is incredible. I think you're going to really like this one. Then I would say Catwoman, Selina, is awesome. It's a great story. I don't know. I felt like this was a lot closer to canon out of all the rest of them. And I really enjoyed that. I love Catwoman. So this was my number 3. My number 4 was actually Clayface. Just the artwork is incredible. The story was great. And I just really enjoyed it. Great to see Clayface. And I'm so excited to see how they're going to pull this off in Batman 2, the movie. So check that out. Then I would say Penguin would be my number 5. Really enjoyed this story. It was a good story about him losing everything and then fighting his way back to regain his empire that he had once created. And he comes back even stronger. So that was a great story and a great comic. Then it comes to Bane. And even though this was a little off from canon, I really enjoyed the story. They did a really great job putting this story together. The artwork I thought was beautiful. Really enjoyed it. Loved the story. Loved how Batman and Bane get together in order to take down the evil villain that is producing more venom. Then I would say Mr. Freeze. Again, I really enjoyed this comic. It was great, but again, when you're ranking them, right, some are going to be at the bottom. In general, I really enjoyed all of these comics, but Mr. Freeze is toward the bottom. And then last but not least, that's going to be Ra's al Ghul. Again, artwork is incredible. Really enjoyed a lot of the action through here. Again, it got a little preachy for me. I didn't enjoy that part, but it was a really good story. And I rank it number 8 out of 8. Again, would love to see this character more, but this wasn't my favorite. But I still enjoyed it. Again, when you're ranking, right, someone's got to be at the bottom. So that's what I thought of Batman. One Bad Day. Hopefully you've been able to get into them. I think they're all worth a read. They've been very enjoyable. And right now, they have a new Batman One Bad Day collector's case with all the comics. I think it's about $45. You could go to dc.com to look at that. But I'm hoping that they do more. I enjoyed it enough to where I'd love to see some of the other villains get their opportunity too. All right, everyone. Hope you had a great weekend, and we will talk soon.